Stallone, this is Wid Bastion. I'm making some recordings of people that have had experiences in the international online dating industry, and I appreciate your willingness to speak with us today and share what's happened to you.
I'm happy to do that.
All right. Well, rather than me start quizzing you, why don't you just start at the beginning and kind of just give us a rundown as to what's happened to you and in as much detail as you'd like to share, Stallone.
No problem. Back in August of 2012, I had a friend who was in a similar industry as I am, and he had went over to Russia and had met a young lady, and they had spent a considerable amount of time writing back and forth, using Skype back and forth, quite a few visits. And they finally got married, and they came back over here to the States, and they live a pretty good life now, and they're happy. And, you know, not to put down the values of American women, but I think family values in Eastern Europe and some of the Asian countries are still intact and haven't been swayed by Hollywood and some of the pop culture that's out there today. So anyway, the bottom line is he introduced me to several websites where I would have the opportunity, he felt, to meet some women from Eastern Europe and mainly Russia and the Ukraine, and so I did that. And the interesting thing, and please feel free to stop me at any point if I tend to go off on a tangent. I chose two sites, Site A and B initially. Site A was a pay-per-letter site. And the minute you put your profile up on that site, within the first couple of days, I had over 700 letters written to me by potential women ranging in ages, from 19 to 42, even though my profile was clear, nobody under 30. Site B was a monthly membership scenario, and there were actually very few letters that came to me. In fact, I had to solicit the letters and the contacts, and that felt a lot more comfortable. The only problem with Site B is immediately some of the young ladies would try to pull you off the site into their private emails, and you at some point in time there always seemed to be another agenda. So anyway, I tried the two different sites because I wanted to do a comparison, and I did some research on the internet and listened to what some other people were saying about international dating. So I went in fairly well educated. So on Site A, when you first receive all these letters, you can open the letter for free, and you can respond to the young lady for free the first time. If she writes back to you, which she always does, and they make a point of saying, well, these are introduction letters. You don't know if the lady will write back to you or not. They're very open that these letters may have went out to a cross-section of 100 gentlemen that met a certain criteria that the young lady was looking for. Well, anyway, never once did I not receive a reply. And depending on, it was my guess based on the research that I did while I was on Site A, that's the pay-per-letter site, based on the age and the look of the young lady seemed to create the or justify the cost of the letter, which ranged anywhere from $2.50 to $20 to open a letter. And, I got to tell you, some of these letters were professionally written. And in fact, I have collected several thousand of the letters that I've received because they were so well written, and there was an obvious, it was obviously choreographed. So, I mean, they obviously had step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. They obviously read just enough or had just enough of the information that you talked about in the first letter to keep you going. But they never answered all your questions. Okay, inside A, before you had, they have the international law, which is called IMBRA, and that's, I'm not going to be able to name the actual name, but it's the acronym, and I think you know what that stands for, correct? The International Marriage Brokers Regulation or something like that. And to protect the young lady overseas, from gentlemen that have an agenda that, because of all the problems with international human trafficking and things of that nature. But anyway.
Okay.
The bottom line is, before you could receive the personal information from this lady on side A, you would have to communicate with this lady 12 times. So you would have to write to her 12 times, and she would have to respond to you 12 times. And at that point, the IMBRA information would be passed on to her, and you would receive her personal information. And at that point, if you went down that path, obviously, you felt that the person you were talking to was legitimate because she did a pretty good job of writing letters. And, it did get pretty personal. On site A, I took it to the point, I spent several $1,000s, and I figured it was money well spent if I was going to find the one woman that I would ultimately travel to see. You never know. Love is hard. Either way you look at it, it's hard to find, and it takes cultivation, and, it takes time to build rapport. But anyway, I went through the process with 10 young ladies, and I received personal information on all 10. The minute I received the personal information on all 10 of those ladies, their demeanor completely changed. In fact, I would venture to say that it wasn't them writing at all. So at that point, what really struck my curiosity was, I had started hearing rumors that there were fake profiles, people using pictures, and I had a niece who had her profile stolen on one of the social networks, and somebody had opened another page with her pictures and using a different name. So what I did is I went to the biggest social network in Russia and Europe, and I guess I won't use their name, but they're the largest. They're bigger than they're bigger than our social network, even though our social network based out of the United States here, and it's rather large. It does have a presence there. I went there, and I found 8 of the 10 ladies on the social network. And 8 of those ladies, 6 were married, and 2 weren't interested in getting married. All 8 had absolutely no idea that they were even on a dating site. I couldn't find two of them, so I don't know where they came from.
So what you're saying, Stallone, with Side A, if I can recap just a second, is that based on your experience and your investigation, that what Side A was all about was getting you to pay, in your words, from $2.50 to $20 a letter, and then once they've exhausted you with that process, then you find out that the women you've been talking with, that those profiles were probably fake. Is that correct?
That is correct. Now, the mega site that's hosting all these profiles and dealing with the agencies, when you bring that to their attention, they immediately refund your money and do their investigation. So I don't know necessarily if the mega sites are involved in it, but I will tell you that I know they're involved in paying the agencies. The interesting thing that I also found on this social network were ads posted by other young ladies. They have a little different set of rules over there, and they could get away with something for just a little while before the site would shut them down. And there were advertisements of a couple gals, trying to promote young ladies to go to work for a particular local marriage agency and talking about how well it paid, and all you had to do was communicate with men from actually the term was Western men. So at that point I knew that the whole thing was a complete sham, and I went through all the letters I had received on Side A, and one thing I failed to mention, it was kind of funny, there were even duplicate letters that were written by the same letter written by different ladies. So you know that there was a third party involved, whether it was the interpreter or who knows.
So your experience on Side A, Stallone, was that you paid all this money for correspondence with women that weren't actually real. They weren't the women that you thought they were.
Right. Eight out of the 10 that I went through the whole process with were real people, but they weren't the ones writing the letters. Somebody had taken their pictures, which they could easily copy and paste off the social network site and create as a profile using their personal information.
The profiles were illegitimate. They were fake.
They were fake. Correct.
And how long did this? How long were you engaged with this site before you found that out and just stopped working with them?
I started working with them the last week of August, and by the end of October, I knew that I was involved, and I had ran across something that was highly irregular and was probably one of the biggest scams I'd ever seen being prosecuted on the public legally in my lifetime, if that makes any sense to you.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense to me. Is it at that point that you went to Site B?
Yes, it's at that point I went to Site B. Site B, I had posted a profile, but I didn't really get involved. And now the operator of Site B was very straightforward, very honest. The person had also been married somebody from a foreign country out of Russia. And so this person knew the ins and outs of the industry, and she was completely honest. And, she even, the company even provided literature that directed you on what to do and what not to do. So when you go to Site B, and there were lots of beautiful women, there were lots of women that posted their profiles without their makeup that were real and honest women, and they would tell you when you'd write to them if they were interested or not interested. And if they were, you continued your correspondence, but they were very thorough. I mean, they wanted to know all about you. I'm talking about the women. They really dug, and they wanted to find out about you. There was a cross section, a very small percentage of those women that had other agendas. And when pointed out, when I brought those other profiles and those other women and their agenda to the attention of the website, they were taken off immediately. So I know the website had nothing to do with that. But it's at that point I knew two things. Number one, look, you're dreaming if you think you're going to meet somebody online and they're going to start using the words "I love you" and "you're the greatest thing since whatever," and really getting intimate right off the bat. You're living a pipe dream, and you need to walk away, and you need to walk away fast. And one of the things that I've been blessed with is that I am a Christian, and I had heard of Christian Filipina, and I had not gotten involved because I hadn't considered looking for my soulmate in Asia at that point. But one of the things I've since found out, I mean, they're very open. I mean, they tell you to communicate with 6 or 7 different women, get to know them, talk to them, stay on site. Don't let them take you off site initially. If they promote, if they ask you for anything, ask you for money or ask you to send tickets or whatever, don't do it. That's a no-no. Report them immediately. But, the biggest thing that I've since found out there is that with Christian Philippine is that it's completely honest, and the women are God-fearing women, and they are from the Philippines, and they're honest. And
wonderful. What happened with Site B, though? We didn't finish that.
I'm going back to that. Thank
Okay.
you for keeping me on point. Anyway, so what happened with Site B is I had signed up for their 90-day program, and quite frankly, the reality of how tough it was going to be communicating just by letter, and you can communicate with Skype and with the young lady if you wanted to. The ultimate, what has to take place before anything's going to prosecute or you're going to really know that you've met your soulmate is you're going to have to take a trip to her country.
Right.
That's the bottom line. And so Site B ran its course, and at that point I was pretty disgruntled, and I was taking a look at, okay, well, I'm not going to go to Eastern Europe. I'm going to take a look at Asia, and I took a little bit of a break. But in between Site A and B, okay, there was Site C, D, E, F, and G, okay? And I posted profiles on those just to get a different cross-section. And several of those were paid per letter, a little bit cheaper, but most of them tended to promote the fact that you needed to take a trip to the woman's country before anything was going to happen. The bottom line is, and I'll just sum this up, when my membership expired with Site B, I did not renew it. And the other websites that I talked about, I did not renew, and I did not continue to write letters on. And I found out about Christian Filipina, and I wanted a God-fearing woman, someone who believed as I believed, and some of the other websites that are out there that promote women from Asia don't necessarily, even though some of the women claim to be God-fearing, there's still a lot of outside influences entering into those sites. Although if you inform the site themselves that you have somebody, let's say, there seems to be a big issue with people, and this has been on 60 Minutes and a lot of news shows, a lot of fraud coming out of Ghana. And you see a lot of that on these other websites. So I guess the bottom line is, and I'm sorry if I've went off in several directions here, the only way, if you're going to meet your future soulmate online, it has to be on a site that allows you're able to chat, you're able to talk and speak via webcam, and ultimately you need to take a trip to meet her, and it needs to be in a safe environment, and you need to take that trip in a safe manner.
Okay, so just to kind of sum up, Stallone, with all of these other sites, A through G or whatever letter we got to, you didn't find what you were looking for.
No.
But when you came to Christian Filipina, the experience now changed, correct?
Well, when I came to Christian Filipina, let me give you an example. I had and I haven't had a lot of time to fulfill all, the chat request. I mean, most of the women want to see you. If they don't see you, and because of the way that website is ran and the way it's promoted, it's so informative. I had no idea there was a lot of men scamming women, sending gifts and so forth and causing them grief until I went to Christian Filipina and I read about it. And then all of a sudden, I understood that a woman wanted to see me on webcam. And some of them just want to talk. Not every one of them are going to be your soulmate. It's more like a fellowship initially than anything else, and you hope that God blesses you and that you'll meet that one person.
It sounds, Stallone, what you're saying to me is that when you started with Christian Filipina, that you found honest relationships. They may not be exactly what you're looking for, but you were able to trust the relationship. Is that a fair statement?
I trust the relationships completely. Although some of the women did provide me with their telephone numbers and Skype addresses and so forth. That was strictly because of my time difference. But I have only hopped over and talked to one lady on another network, or via Skype, because I was having trouble with the video on that with my computer for some reason on the site that night. So I think it was the internet connection. Yes, the bottom line is I completely trusted the women that I was speaking to. They want to know who I am, what I'm about. They want to see my face. They want to know that I'm real. They want to know that I'm honest and sincere, and that makes me feel comfortable, and that's the way that site promotes the interaction between its members. And in that scenario, you can't go wrong. And the main thing is you're not going to go broke trying to meet your soulmate on the site.
Now, explain that for a second, Stallone. Are you paying a per letter fee on Christian Filipina?
No, I just pay a small monthly fee. Actually, my initial sign-up was just for 3 months. I'm going to sign up for a year when that expires. And it's very minor. I mean, I can't even remember what it was. It's minor.
Okay, and so you've been exploring, you've been introducing yourself to a number of women, and how's that going on Christian Filipina? Are you getting any success?
Oh, it's going great. It's a matter of me finding the time to be able to continue my conversations because of the industry that I'm in. But it's fantastic. There's a couple of young ladies that I've met there that I feel that there is some definite possibilities, and I have great rapport with. And look, what I'm doing is I'm following the guidelines, and I'm listening to what the site has to say, where they've seen their successes and how other people have been successful there. That's the way I'm doing it, and I'm
wonderful. Just as for a last kind of sum up thing, Stallone, what would you have to say to someone who was in your position, a year ago or so? What advice would you give to someone who's new to international dating online?
Well, I would tell them if they wanted to meet a good and wonderful woman from Asia, there's only one place they should go, and that's Christian Filipina. And I say that from personal experience. I'm not promoting that site for any reason whatsoever other than it's a safe place to be, and you're not going to be taken advantage of. The women are honest. They're there to look for their soulmate. They're not there to play games, and they're open about it. And so I would tell them not to waste your time. And I would say there's one other site out there that you might want to take a look at that Christian Filipina appears to know that they might want to go to if they were looking for somebody in Eastern Europe. But if you were looking for a good, God-fearing Christian woman in Asia, that's the only place to go. It's honest and it's safe.
Okay, let me ask you one follow-up question, Stallone. Have you reported any of these sites that you feel are fraud sites to the FTC or another government organization?
I have not done that yet, but I'm about to do that.
Okay, that's something that you feel you want to do.
Oh, I'm going to do it. I want to do it. It has to be done. And, I've compiled the evidence, at least from my perspective, that supports what's going on, and men are being taken advantage of. And I'm sure some women are too. And I'll tell you, I don't believe that all the women in these countries are participating. I believe there's probably a large percentage that are looking for foreign husbands, and they're not getting a fair chance to find them.
Right.
And because of the way things are ran, it's about the almighty dollar.
Most men who are scammed like you were don't report this to the government. Why do you think they don't report it?
Well, they're probably embarrassed that they were taken advantage of. I'm not. And, if you can expose something like that, first of all, God calls you to do it. And the outcome will only be positive. And if I can save one man, could you hold on for 1 second?
Sure.
Okay, anyway, I'm back.
Okay, so
So,
yeah, I understand your point of view. You want to help other men avoid the problems you went through, and women as well. I understand.
yeah, you bet. And, I'm not, I've seen other guys tell their similar stories, and, but they've done nothing about it. And I'm going to take it as far as I can take it, and I'm going to tell whoever will listen.
Wonderful. Well, I'll tell you what, I really appreciate you taking some time this afternoon to speak with me. I appreciate it very much, Stallone.
You bet. If there's anything else I could provide, let me know. And once again, there's so much there that I apologize if I wasn't able to keep it on point, but I think you catch my drift and understand where I'm coming from.